In the shadowy world of horror masterpieces, there is a true titan of terror, a man whose imposing presence and dedication to his craft have carved him a permanent place in the nightmares of millions. He has been burned alive, drowned, hanged, and stabbed more times than any serial killer in history. But the most terrifying thing about him isn't the monsters he played, it's the horrors he survived just to become them. We are talking about the one and only, the legendary Kane Hodder. Beyond the machete-wielding maniac and monstrous figure lies a story of resilience and relentless pursuit of passion. But beware, what lurks in the darkness might just surprise you. Our story begins not in the murky swamps of Camp Crystal Lake, but in a place of youthful dreams. Kane Hodder, even before doing his iconic hockey mask, harbored a burning ambition to be a stuntman. This wasn't a casual fancy. It was a deeply ingrained desire, fueled by a fascination with the raw physicality and the art of illusion. A quiet military base in the Pacific, the 1960s, where a young Kane Hodder, born April 8, 1955 in California, grew up as a daredevil kid. Bullied relentlessly for his size and awkwardness, Kane turned pain into action. He would climb 35th floor balconies, dangle over 350-foot drops just to shock his friends. And one day, that thrill-seeking nature took a dark turn. In 1977, at age 22, Kane was doing a demonstration for a local journalist in Lake Tahoe to show what a fire stunt looked like. He had done small-scale fire gags before, but on this occasion the accelerant used was inappropriate and applied too generously. When ignited, the flames spread rapidly and uncontrollably, burning deep into his upper body, chest, arms, neck, and part of his face. The pain was excruciating, and he had to run into a nearby lake to try to extinguish the flames. He was airlifted and hospitalized for several months, enduring multiple skin grafts and surgeries. The aftermath was gruesome. Accident resulted in second and third degree burns over much of his upper body, with some sources stating over 50% of his body was affected. He spent over 4 months in a hospital, initially receiving inadequate care, before being transferred to a burn unit in San Francisco where he underwent 7 skin graft procedures to recover. The incident left him severely scarred, both physically and emotionally, and nearly ended his stunt career before it began. Ironically, his ability to endure pain and physical punishment made him a perfect fit for roles like Jason Voorhees. The fire incident wasn't just a setback, it was a life-altering event. Doctors told him he might never fully recover, let alone continue his demanding career. But Kane Hodder is not one to back down from a challenge. Imagine the pain, the uncertainty, yet within this crucible of fire, something else was forged, an unbreakable will. He fought his way back, enduring countless treatments and defying the odds. This experience, in a strange and a profound way, would later inform the intensity and realism he brought to his most terrifying roles. But how did this resilient stuntman marked by fire eventually find himself embodying one of the cinema's most infamous killers? The path to Camp Crystal Lake wasn't a straight one. After his recovery, Kane threw himself back into stunt work with renewed ferocity. He built a reputation for his toughness and willingness to take on the most dangerous stunts. Those scars didn't break him. They became his ticket to horror immortality. Producers saw those burns and thought, this guy is perfect for a monster. Imagine the irony. A man scarred by fire nearly played Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street, a role that went to Robert Englund, sparking a lifelong friendship. Now here is where our story takes an interesting turn. When the producers of Friday the 13th Part 7 The New Blood were looking for a new Jason Voorhees, they weren't necessarily seeking a seasoned actor. They needed someone with a commanding physical presence, someone who could convey menace but not just through sheer physicality. Can you imagine the casting call? A room full of hopefuls, and then in walks this man. What landed Kane the role was a mix of timing, his reputation for dangerous stunts, and a gruesome demonstration of his pain tolerance. Director John Carl Buechler was hired to direct The New Blood and wanted to reimagine Jason Voorhees as hulking, monstrous, and physically intimidating figure. Previous Jasons were often big but did not quite project the menace Buechler wanted. He was particularly focused on Jason's eyes. He wanted someone who could act through the mask with imposing physicality and emotive body language. Kane had already worked with Buechler on Prison 1987, where he performed an intense full-body burn stunt, staying engulfed in flames longer than anyone else on the set dared. Impressed by that, Buechler invited Kane to audition. Even though Kane wasn't the biggest guy physically, he was strong and muscular but shorter than others considered. So what did Kane do? Now mind you, this is not a fact but more of a myth and really cool one. So Hodder volunteered to do another live burn test, just to show Buechler how far he was willing to go. He put on flame gel, lit himself on fire in front of the director, and calmly walked around like Jason without flinching. Buechler supposedly later said, "He just kept walking, completely calm, totally terrifying, and I said, that's Jason, that is the guy." Well, the truth is a little more down to earth. The reason John Buechler picked Kane was simple. I needed someone who could act under makeup, sell the fear, and handle insane stunts. I had just seen what Kane did in prison, that was all I needed to know, revealed John later during an interview. But studio executives hated Hodder's hulking, animalistic Jason. They wanted a more supernatural look. But Hodder fought back. Jason is a pissed-off zombie. He should move like a ballet dancer. Hodder still jokes about choking a producer as the last argument for Jason's appearance. No worries, it didn't happen, just a fun fiction for fans straight from Hodder. In the end, Kane became the first actor to play Jason more than once, starring in 4 films: The New Blood, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X. Fans and critics hail his portrayal as the definitive Jason, brutal, silent, unstoppable. For many fans, Kane redefined the character. His portrayal was brutal, relentless, and undeniably terrifying. The movie set was a playground of chaos. During The New Blood, Kane pulled a prank that left the crew stunned. Between takes, he would hide, then leap out in full Jason gear, swinging a machete, fake of course, nearly giving director Buechler a heart attack. On a serious note, despite his early age trauma from the fire incident, Hodder also performed a record-breaking 40-second full-body burn. Here is a particular episode from the filming of one of the Friday movies, where Kane, fully in character and costume, accidentally wandered off the set during a break. Unsuspecting locals going about their day only to suddenly encounter the hulking figure of Jason emerging from the woods. The reactions, as you can imagine, range from sheer terror to utter confusion. By the way, do you know what Kane's favorite Jason's movie kill is? When Jason grabs a camper in a sleeping bag and swings her against a tree, killing her in a single brutal motion. Originally, the scene was longer, with Jason slamming the sleeping bag multiple times, but the MPAA forced severe cuts for rating purposes. Kane suggested for the final version to show just one devastating hit, which ironically made it even more terrifying and memorable. Also, the scene was physically challenging, as the sleeping bag contained a dummy weighted with sand. However, fire, or in this case hot steam, did not seem to forget about Hodder. What happened? During the filming of the final scenes of Jason Takes Manhattan in 1989, set in the New York sewers, Jason is exposed to toxic waste, and the sequence required extensive steam effects. Kane Hodder, always known for performing his own stunts, was wearing the full Jason costume, which included layers of latex, prosthetics, and heavy wet clothing. In one scene, steam blasts were used to simulate the toxic waste, and the steam effect was real, not CGI. The steam was much hotter than anticipated, and it burned Hodder's torso, causing blisters and minor burns. Because he was in full makeup and couldn't break character, He kept going through the scene without stopping, only revealing how badly he was burned once the director yelled "cut." He later said that Jason's costume actually trapped the heat, making it much worse. Before we jump into the controversy of Freddy vs. Jason, here is another fun fact. During Jason X, Kane's favorite kill was the liquid nitrogen face smash. He helped to design it, and it's now one of the most famous kills in horror history. As of 2025, since Jason X, there are no officially released Jason movies featuring Kane Hodder. But Crystal Lake TV series, Peacock Network, and it's in development. Kane is not confirmed to be involved, but fans are hopeful for a cameo or stunt work. Although Kane is 70 years old, maybe it is time to go light on heavy dangerous stunt work? But it's Hodder after all, most likely will go full blast as needed. While Kane Hodder is synonymous with Jason for many, his contributions to the horror genre extend far beyond Camp Crystal Lake. One of his most critically praised roles, though perhaps not as widely known as Jason, is his portrayal of Victor Crowley in the Hatchet film series. Hodder got the role thanks to personal connection with the director and a script written specifically with him in mind, not through a traditional audition. Adam Green, the writer-director of Hatchet, was a lifelong horror fan who grew up idolizing Kane Hodder, especially for his portrayal of Jason. In interviews, Green said that Hodder's performance as Jason, particularly in The New Blood and Jason X, inspired the kind of horror monster he wanted to create. When I wrote Victor Crowley, I wrote him for Kane Hodder. There was no backup plan, said Adam. When Kane received the script, he was moved by it, particularly by the tragic backstory of Victor Crowley, which gave the character surprising emotional depth. When I first read it, I was like, wow, this is not just another slasher. There is something sad and beautiful about Crowley. I knew I had to play this part. Kane also stated that Crowley was one of his most personally meaningful roles, even more than Jason. So when Adam Green handed Kane the script, it wasn't just another monster role. It was a chance, maybe the first, to give a masked killer a broken heart and maybe even a soul. But what Kane didn't know was that Hatchet would do more than put him in front of the camera. It would put him back into the hearts of horror fans and spawn a whole new legend. And as usual, the set was wild. While filming, a prop hatchet malfunctioned, nearly slicing Kane's hand. He laughed it off, turning it into a prank by chasing the crew with the broken prop. It is well known that Hodder often engaged in playful antics on set. He has a reputation for using his intimidating presence to prank cast and crew members, enhancing the set atmosphere. During Hatchet 2, Kane smashed his head against a wall before a kill scene to unsettle co-star. Why? I will do something like smash my head on a wall before we do the violent scene, and they will be like, what? We are about to do this scene and he's over there banging his head against the wall? For me, I'm just doing it for them. It's entertaining to me, explained Hodder. He is pure method acting. And so here we go. There was another iconic horror villain that Kane had a unique connection to, Freddy Krueger. With Freddy vs. Jason, Kane thought he finally got the chance to share the scene with Robert Englund's legendary Dreamstalker. At least this is what it looked like at first when Kane got the script. However, the lead up to this cinematic showdown was not without its drama. After some time, Kane was worried that there was no follow-up on the role, and to his disappointment he was finally told to sit this one out. Many fans were also surprised and frankly upset when Kane Hodder was not chosen to reprise his role as Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. Kane Hodder lost the role of Jason Voorhees in Freddy vs. Jason due to a mix of studio decisions, physical appearance preferences, and behind-the-scenes politics, not because of performance or popularity. This was a major controversy in horror fandom and a personal blow to Hodder. The reasons behind this decision are still debated and shrouded in a bit of mystery. Some point to creative differences, others to the studio wanting a different physical presence for the character in that particular film. New Line Cinema, which owned the rights of both Freddy and Jason at the time, wanted a taller actor to contrast Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger more dramatically. Though would 2.5 inches make that much of a difference, really? The movie was shot in Canada, and Ken Kinzinger was already working as a stunt coordinator in Vancouver. He had even previously doubled for Jason in some of the scenes in Jason Takes Manhattan. There is a strong industry speculation that Canadian union rules and local crew availability played a role in selecting Ken, since hiring a local actor stuntman would have saved production costs. Regardless of the reasons, it was a significant moment in horror history and a disappointment for many who considered Kane their Jason. Imagine the anticipation, the build-up to this ultimate horror clash, and then the unexpected news. How did Kane himself react to this? Kane Hodder was heartbroken and shocked when he was passed over for the role he had played more times than any other actor. It was devastating. I felt like I had earned that role. I never got the real reason that made sense. I was deeply hurt. I really thought I was going to do Freddy vs. Jason. I had meetings about it, I had a script. It was devastating not to be part of it. It wasn't the fans that didn't want me, it was the studio decision, and I don't know why, said Kane Hodder in an interview. Even Robert Englund, who played Freddy, has publicly said he supported Kane returning as Jason. By the way, Kane did manage to sneak into the final cut of Freddy vs. Jason. There is a brief scene where ATV in the background shows a clip of Kane Hodder from another movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, 1990, where he played Leatherface. Unfortunately, this was a reused footage cameo, not an original scene shot for Freddy vs. Jason. Despite the Freddy vs. Jason chapter, Kane Hodder's legacy as horror icon remains firmly intact. His multiple portrayals of Jason are often cited by fans as some of the most physically imposing and terrifying interpretations of the character. His impact stretches beyond just one franchise. His work in the Hatchet series, his memorable appearances in films like Monster, and his continued presence at the horror conventions worldwide solidified his status as the true legend of the genre. Here is a final, perhaps lesser known but deeply human aspect of Kane's story. He has often spoken about the support of his fans and how much their appreciation means to him. This connection, forged through hard work, is a testament to the unique bond that exists within the horror community. From surviving a near-fatal fire to embodying some of our deepest fear on screen, Kane Hodder's journey is one of the resilience, passion, and a touch of the unexpected. He is more than just a man in a mask. He is a force of nature, both on and off screen. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.